Hi, this is Carrie Hummingbird, and this is Soul Nectar Show. And I'm so excited to deliver another installment of discussion around that topic that's so hard to describe. And the only way I've found to really get at it is through sharing our stories. And that's discussing essence, that place of connection, that deep knowing of who we really are, and the connection to all that is. And today I'm so excited to have Stephen Garrett on the show. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me. It's so much fun to be with you.
Yay. So today's going to be a fun talk. So I'm going to read a little bit of Stephen's bio to give you an idea about who he is and what he does. So when you first meet Stephen, you know you are meeting a man who lives life fully. A genuine heart and commitment to life have produced in Stephen the qualities of a warrior: integrity, strength, leadership, kindness, and wisdom. Stephen has experienced success in life as a teacher, an investment banker, a social worker, and an author. His greatest achievement through his courage in the midst of adversity. Along with his success, Stephen has faced tremendous loss in his life: the death of his sister Jody, his father Lloyd, and most recently his brother Peter. What makes Stephen as a man more profound than his many accomplishments is his choice to remain open, loving, and steadfast in the midst of death, loss, and grief. And arising out of his personal experiences of hospital death, Stephen's heart, passion, and life energy is focused on changing the conversation we have about death from one of fear and denial to one of embrace and inspiration. Stephen combines his life experience with his master's in leadership and training, multiple diplomas in conflict resolution, mediation, and communication, along with extensive grief and loss training. He trains and mentors healthcare providers in dealing with dying, death, and the associated environmental grief most healthcare providers experience. And so today I'm so delighted to talk to you because as we were talking about potentially doing this broadcast together, we were exploring how, a lot of spiritual path walking has to do with death and dying and letting go. And then, we're all focused on the beginnings, but the endings are equally as important as the beginnings. So, tell us a little bit more about what you do so that we can know a little bit more about you and your personal journey and how you came to, I know you said that you had this amazing experience with your sister dying. And so, weave that in too, because we want to hear all about that.
Sure. It's been quite an adventure the last 60 odd years, I'll tell you. But what I've come to, and then I'll go back to the story, is I'm recognizing that a lot of people in North America are absolutely petrified of death. So I thought, why would that be, number one, and what does death mean? And death simply is something existed and now it doesn't. That's it. So a definition of death is change. So if I planted the seed of the fear of death of my body in the ground and watered it and nurtured it and let it blossom into a bush, it would manifest in my staying in a relationship too long, would manifest in staying in a job too long, would manifest in me not taking the risks my heart wanted me to take because I didn't want my personality to die. There's all these little mini deaths in life that we don't even recognize as deaths that we don't want to face because of our number one fear of death of the body. So that's how I hold death. I actually hold death as a change agent and as a very inspiring teacher. Death is my favorite teacher of all, most reliable teacher of all. And I've had lots of teachers. The reason I can say this with such certainty is way back in 1988, May the 5th, on a Thursday evening at 6:32. I'll never forget the phone call. My sister died. And she shouldn't have, by all rights and regulations and by the Christian religion I grew up in, the Anglican faith I was part of. She was 36, and she was so generous and loving and creative, and I was just this stockbroking, money-making, drinking fool. And I couldn't negotiate with God to get her back. God didn't want my ping golf clubs. God didn't want my sports car. God didn't want my RSPs or my IRAs or any of my money. God just wasn't in the business of doing deals like that. And she said to me, sorry, your sister's dead. Deal with it. It was this crushing, like the sharpest knife ever going through my life. It's like, whoa, like she's not coming back, like it's over. And I went into deep crisis for a while because it was a loss I wasn't willing to accept. And yet, when I finally accepted it, my dear sweet sister Jody's death woke me up and had me recognize that what am I doing in a suit on Wall Street selling stocks and bonds? That's not me. How did this happen? Like, whoa, I was a drummer in a rock band when I was a hippie. How did I get here with such short hair and handsome face, you know? And so profound was my wake-up call that was initiated by the death of my sister, her very death, that I had to change careers. I had to leave. I just had to follow what I thought was more of my heart. So I'm forever grateful that my sister passed away. And at the same moment, in the same instance, I miss her deeply to this very day. I miss her rotten coffee because she made really lousy coffee. I miss her warm, embracing hugs. I miss her silly sense of humor and her crazy socks. And I'm grateful for her passing. The two seem irreconcilable, but they're not. Shakespeare wrote of it. Parting is such sweet sorrow. So in her loss, in her death, I got my life. It's like, what? My brain just couldn't. And so I set out on a path to understand what is life, what is death, what is God, what is spirit, what is essence, what the heck is all this stuff? What is all this mumbo jumbo new age spirituality? What? And now, 26 years later, I'm starting to get it. And I'm starting to understand what essence is. I'm starting to understand what the best workshop in the world is and what the best teacher is. Our lives are the best workshop.
Oh, yeah.
Best workshop. That's it. My life is my best workshop, and my very best teacher is death. And so it's just evolved that way, and I just followed my heart more and more and more. And the more I follow my heart, the more God demands I trust her more and more and more, to the point where it's like I'm at the edge of the roadmap, and there's no more roadmap, but there's something in front of me. And God's asking me to step into the map that's not yet drawn, that hasn't got a highway marker on it, that just has my feet going ahead one at a time. And it takes a lot of breath and a lot of willingness to be humbled by the request to continue to walk forward, not knowing at all what the consequence or outcome is going to be. Like, part of me goes, are you kidding? You want me to walk out into the unknown with no roadmap and trust you? And she goes, mm-hmm. Yep. That's
Isn't it fun like that?
Yeah. And it's fun for my heart or my essence or my spirit. But the ego mind gets crushed. Mm-hmm. And, I've come to realize that my body dying is a way easier death than the death of my ego. Like, my ego is like hanging on for dear life. It'd be easier just to die physically, And the ego is so clever at finding new ways to take the driver's seat away from me when I thought I took my steering wheel of my life back. So what God's asking me to do is actually to die as the one I think I am, in order that the one I really am can be birthed. if that makes any sense.
It does. It makes I've been dealing with a lot of this.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. You know, I love you're talking about death as a really good ally, because in the work that I do, is shamanic in nature. And I've been taking a class from the Power Path, actually, which is Jose and Lena Stevens. I love them. And they're very wise. And it's a 1-year program. And we're in the West. We were in the West. We're in the North now. Thank goodness. I was so glad it shifted. But the West is a direction with them that includes the spirit of death. And the spirit of death is there to help you to let go of those things that don't serve you and to also expand. So it's interesting that in the spirit of the West, when you're dealing with death, it's about letting go, and it's also about expanding. So it's like letting that go, creating space, expansion, and then something new is going to be birthed. And then the North is the direction that, has that process of birthing and preparing and getting it all ready so you can harvest it,
Yeah.
But the West was very intense for me. It was facing the death of figuring it out,
Yeah.
When I say figuring it out, it was like I had a 20-year relationship that I ended about 6 years ago. And I ended it very flamboyantly and unconsciously, and was like, I'm out of here. I got a message from spirit, that was the end of the rope, but really the rest of it was fairly unconscious. And I spent a good part of the last 5 years, really healing from that. And when I went to the West direction with them, it was so interesting to witness myself still trying to figure it out. Like, what went wrong? It's been over, like 5-6 years, and I'm still like traveling around those little thought tunnels trying to figure it out. And the way through it was death. The way through it was surrendering it, was leaving it in some tobacco as an offering to the earth and saying, please take this from me, because I admit I'm never going to figure it out.
Yep.
It's just, I just need you to just take it.
Yep.
Here it is. I'm going to leave it there.
Yep. And that sort of ritual, by the way, is exquisitely beautiful and fundamentally important. If we lack ritual in our lives like that, when I left Toronto, I brought with me one business suit, one business tie, one shirt, one pair of socks, one pair of business shoes, and my briefcase, just in case. Right? So I've got a foot in Toronto. I've got a foot in Vancouver. That's a very precarious place for a man to be stretched out that far, because you're going to get kicked somewhere. And I recognized that I hadn't let me as a stockbroker, money guy, go. I still had part of me I was hanging on to, because that's how I thought I was going to get my dad's approval, was by being just like him. And yet now I'm in Vancouver, and I'm a social worker, but I'm not really a social worker because I still am not finished with my base. So I was in this power struggle, and it was me in the middle of it, like trying to hold these two poles. And I realized, oh man, something's got to give here, because I can't be both. And so I had this brainwave. I got a hold of a couple of my men friends. I said, find me a place in the woods close to a creek where we can have a bonfire. And they said, what are we going to do? Like hot dogs? I said, no, we're going to do something, but it's not hot dogs, And so I got dressed in my business suit, my shirt, my tie, my belt, my pants, my underwear, my socks, everything, as if I was going to the office. And underneath, I was wearing a black t-shirt and black running tights. And I said to them, we're going to do a burning, and I'm going to burn me in effigy. So let's get the bonfire going. So they lit the bonfire, and off came my jacket. It represented something. I threw it into the fire, and it burned, and then my tie, and then my shirt. And I just kept stripping myself naked, consciously linking the article of clothing to what it meant to me and the value or investment I had in being this money guy. And I got down to my black stuff, and that was a shell too. So I said, no, I'm not going to hide in the shadows anymore. So I ripped off the t-shirt and burnt that, ripped off the running tights and burnt them, and burnt the job. I burnt everything. And sat there like stunned. Like, who am I without all this garb? And then I burst into tears, and they picked me up and dragged me into the creek and bathed me with water and cedar boughs and smudged me and did all that kind of shamanic stuff to help me let go. Brought me back out of the water, wrapped me in a blanket and laid me down by the fireplace. And I cried for hours because I was grieving the death of me as I held myself. Because I wasn't able to be reborn until I was dead as a stockbroker. It was profound. The moment I did that, my life began to advance as a social worker. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I was anchored. I was anchored in my unwillingness to die as I had held myself. The moment I let it go and thought, forget it, I'm not that anymore, I'm dead, and rebirthed myself in the creek and in the flames and all that stuff, I was free.
Wow. This is speaking to me so deeply right now. You know, there are no mistakes.
Yeah.
We're having this conversation and I'm thinking, you know, my previous career was 20 years as a technical writing consultant, you know, and part of me has this like irritation, you know, that, I mean, I used to make, you know, $100 an hour to do what I did, and I was valued, and this spiritual stuff is crazy because, you know, what's up with these people want a free healing? And, you know, like I have all this like stuff about like where I should be at 47 in my life and how I should be successful and be able to buy my son a car, and I can't afford any of that because I'm doing this spiritual work. And, you know, like I have all these material ideas still in my being. And I'm sitting here thinking, I made a slow path. I took the leap in faith, but it was a gradual process, you know. In the last year and a half, I've been full time and doing this work and trusting spirit every step of the way. But it was like little inching, like every month. Okay, like this month I'm going to believe it's possible. Okay, then I get to the next. This month I'm going to believe it's possible, you know, kind of thing. But I have to be honest, I don't think I've closed all the back doors because there's part of me that's like, well, if this thing doesn't work, you know, just go back to the high paying. And that's a lie. There's no way I can go back. I mean, I changed on my LinkedIn profiles to carry Hummingbird. Those people already know I'm crazy. They're never going to hire me. So I think there is a way that you're right. Like we have to, Alberto Villoldo talks about it, like we have to close all the back doors in order to move forward in the new direction. And another way of saying is we have to be willing to go completely into the void, the blackness, the abyss, the not knowing, because that blackness is where creation happens.
Bingo. So I have a young client who I work with who's on the spiritual path. He spends half his year in India with Amma, right? And the other half he spends here serving people and doing the good work and getting his education. He was a very, very successful poker player, highly successful, made a lot of money. And I don't know whether you've watched poker or any of your listeners have ever watched poker. And there's a reason for this story. So I notice when I'm watching poker, because I like to study people, that the moment a poker player puts all his chips in the center of the table and says, I'm all in, the table comes to life. Okay, somebody's all in. Holy shit. Right? It's true.
It is.
Because they're pushing all their money into the center of the table based on the cards they have in front of them. And they don't have all 5 cards yet. They've got 2. And there's 7 more to come. Right? So he set up a coaching business because he really cares about young men. And he cares about how lost they seem to be. And he said, I wonder what I should call my coaching business. And I thought, oh, that's a no-brainer. All in coaching. Because there's a quality that happens when somebody goes all in, whether it's a poker game, whether it's holding a hand, whether it's drinking a cup of coffee. When somebody is all in, the universe pays attention. And in a poker game, the universe is the dealer and the other players around the table. When somebody goes all in, the whole table, you can see them, they go, whoa. They're all paying attention now because the stakes are high. And this is where I had to get to in my life. Am I all in or am I not? Am I really going to change the way North America is deaf and dying or am I not? I haven't got time to fool around anymore. And so I had to come to that, okay, I'm looking, I got 2 cards and there's 7 more to come. And I got a 2 and a 3. That's not a very good poker hand. And grandmother, God is asking me to go all in. But grandma, I haven't got the other 5 cards. How do I know? She said, trust your heart, son. Trust your heart. Again, I got to trust? Trust your heart. I'm sitting on a 2 and a 3. So I said, you know what, grandma? I'm tired of fighting you. I can't fight you anymore. If this is your wish, as your servant, I'm all in. And it really affected me deeply because I had made from my deepest essence in that moment a choice to go all in. And I felt it. And I saw grandma smile. She said, thanks, honey. You're mine now.
You know what? This is so powerful because it's reminding me of when, Ava Charlotte, who's the former partner of Don Miguel Ruiz, and I interviewed her on the show already, and so it's already come out. And
nice.
She talks about how she had a skydiving accident where the chute did not open, and she dropped 4,000 feet. But the most interesting thing, I mean, that's fairly interesting. It's extremely interesting that she survived. But, beyond that, the interesting part is that she was in the plane having a vision of her chute not opening before she jumped. Yep. And she got that premonition. And the question that she was asked was, live or die?
Yep.
And she made the choice to live from the very core of her essence, made the choice to live. And this leads me to the next point, which is you cannot bullshit God.
Yeah.
And I've been trying, I think my ego has been trying to bullshit God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all in. But like a little nail over here in the other reality. I'm all in conditionally. I'm all in as long as you don't ask me to give this up or that up or do this or do that or suffer. Right. I'm all in as long as you give me everything I want.
Yeah.
And, and I'm also reminded of when I was, this is a little piece of my story. After kind of throughout my marriage, and even I was married, but I wasn't happy and I wanted love. And I thought love was outside of me and these men. So I would, seduce men and get attention and I would feel better. And it was working for me for quite a while until it didn't. And, then I was looking for the one. I was like, where's the one? Where's the one? I don't know where the one is, the one I'm supposed to meet, this one. And the kind of difficult part about being an older soul is that you actually do have awarenesses of things. Like you remember parts of the plan. And so you can get very attached to those parts of the plan. Like, I know that's supposed to happen, where is that? And it wasn't happening. And I was like, I am so frustrated. Like, I've done everything. I've done my personal path. I've worked on myself. Where is he? And I did not receive this man until I actually fundamentally in the bottom of my soul accepted he might not show up. something maybe happened to him. He didn't make it in this life. I'm going to be alone this life. I'm going to be a cat lady. And the rest of my
Yep.
life. And I had to really deeply accept that. And the ego plates in my brain shifted and I was disoriented and I thought I was going to die because I realized God has total control over me and it's not going to make anything happen unless I surrender.
Yep.
And I hated that.
Yep.
The ego part of me
Yep.
hates that.
Yep.
Loss of control.
Yep. It's punishing to the ego to sit there and look and notice that your ego has been running your life the whole time, and now you're sitting at a juncture where you recognize it, and that's even more excruciating because then, I'm dead. Like this is crazy. Like I see what I'm doing, and I still can't let go fully enough just to trust. It's really it's a Herculean job to trust that deeply without reservation, to be all in your own life, not knowing where it's going. I have ideas where I'm going to go. I have plans. I got books I'm writing. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Maybe. I don't know, because that's way off in the future. What am I doing today? Right here, right now, I'm talking to you. That's about as far as I can go.
But here's the interesting thing is that most of our culture, Western culture being predominant in the world at this point and setting the tone for a lot of the conversation, is based in ego control, is based in I can make it happen.
Yep.
And I'm the biggest one of those. Here's my story. I'm a manifester by design. My human design type is manifester.
Yep.
If anybody can make it happen, I can make it happen because I came here to make it happen.
Yep.
And so it's super challenging to get past that personality. And I remember this summer I was in Asangate with Alberto, and Alberto Vialdo was like, my suggestion is to take that story you're so fond of, that you're a manifester, and put that in a little treasure box.
Yep.
And then open to the holy mountain to show you who it thinks you are.
Yep.
Not who you like to be.
Yep.
And when I did that, this Soul Nectar show was the result several months later.
Yep. Yep.
So how much proof do we need, Stephen? How much proof? We know this is how it works. And we know that every time we let it go and give it to death and say, okay, you win, God, you're you win.
Yeah.
You can have you own my soul, like, anyway, and you are me, and I'm just getting to experience this. I'm along for the ride. How much, when we let it go, we always get something even more beautiful than we could muscle and make it happen.
Yep. It's Malcolm Gladwell wrote in his book, The Outlier, it takes 10,000 hours to master something. So I did the math on 10,000 hours because that's what's 10,000 hours?
Yeah.
What does it mean? So I thought, okay, let's say I put in an hour every day to my personal evolution as a spiritual being. 1 hour every day. How many years would that be? So that's 365 hours a year at an hour a day. So it's 26 and a third years.
Are you there yet? Because you're...
Yep. Because I started in 1989. And I've noticed now, 26 years later, I'm way more surrendered to what God wants me to do in service of her than I've ever been. I'm not even arguing anymore. I've given up. It's not that I've given up. I've surrendered that piece of my ego. I've said, Grandma, I'm yours. I'm your willing and humble servant. You got my mind, baby. You got my emotions. You got my spirit. You got my body. Show me the way. And she showed me this path of death and dying. And my ego is going, there's no way I want to be a death coach. Nobody wants a death coach around. I mean, this is not good news. But my heart's going, yeah, I got it. And you're following me now. Because I've turned myself over to the great mystery. And she's having her way with me. I couldn't have designed this. I couldn't have designed the meeting with you. How could I have met you? How could we have done this? It's impossible. And yet, there you are on my screen, and there I am on your screen, and we've actually met, and we're actually having this conversation. And I'm clear it's because of my surrender and because of your surrender. Mm-hmm. I've just quit fighting. It's just not worth it. It takes too much energy to fight God. It takes way too much energy.
It takes a lot of energy to fight God. It sure does.
It does.
She knows best.
Yep.
Wow. That's so profound.
Yep. That's what I've noticed. And I spent a lot of life energy. I knew when I was 6 years old, I was going to be serving people. I knew it. I loved Jesus, not because of the Christian faith, but because of him, the man. I loved Gandhi because of him, the man, and what he did and how he served his people. I loved Khalil Gibran because of the way he wrote so beautifully. I'm a little guy. I knew it. But then I fell asleep, as most of us do, and I don't make myself wrong for it, and rolled into the North American dream. White picket fence, have the wife, have the kids, have the car, have the RSPs, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work for me. But I needed to go through that experience in order that I could learn how to fully surrender. So I was fully into the American dream. Well, I had to get out of the matrix. And the only way out of the matrix, and the only place to go after the matrix, is God. Okay.
And we have to face these really big fears, because fear is not of God. Fear is from this human construct that feels separate from God and feels unprotected and unsafe and unloved and doubtful. And I don't know if I'm being protected, and, I have to fend for myself. And, that's all from the human matrix. And, and I'm aware of that. And I'm also aware of all the lifetimes I've had. And I'm aware that I'm going to get another life after this. Like, I know I am.
Yep.
And I still get wrapped up in wanting to control it. I like this life. I was in a very, I did a very deep healing with, at a workshop, and I was having a deep awareness that I needed to release some fear, and I was releasing it, and I needed to release some anger, and it was from past lives, and I was releasing it and being with it and just inviting the spirit of death. And then this overarching question, and how can I know? And what if, with all the crazy things happening in our society, what if my life ends? And the Ascended Masters just spoke so clearly to me. They said, well, you'll get another life. Why are you afraid? And it was so matter of fact. And I said, well, but I like this one. And they said, what did they said, how did they phrase it? They said, you've liked every life you've had so far. You'll like the next one.
Yeah.
So stop being attached to the outcome. Yeah. Do what you're called to do without fear, because you'll get another life if it doesn't work out. If this one doesn't work, then you'll come back and try again.
Yep.
It's the ultimate, permission to try and miss. It's like sinning is missing, actually. It's missing the mark. That's what it means to sin, is to miss the mark. And, we have a bazillion opportunities to sin, to miss the mark.
Yep.
But once you know better, you got to do better. That's the thing. Once you know better, you've got to aim for the full integration of that knowing, that wisdom in your life, and act from it. And that's the challenging part when you get these downloads that we've been getting.
Yep.
And I love you.
Are you kidding?
You were telling me that that you actually, in your workshops, you actually help people face their death. Talk us a little bit about that, and then I want to hear about that.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's we're calling it dying to live. That's the name of the workshop, Dying to Live. And so we bring people together. We've done one in Canada. It's the first time ever it's been done in North America, as far as I can tell. They do something similar, but way looser in South Korea. Anyway, we had a group of people gathered together in a workshop space, and I organized a bunch of caskets to be in another room. The intention of the workshop is to face this day, our very life, exactly as we have lived it. And what regrets do you have around the 10 most important people in your life? What regrets do you have around your parents? What regrets do you have around your own life and how you've lived it? In other words, we're preparing for death. So let's do the inventory and let's make lists. And we did dyads, which mean we talked to each other about it. So we did about 3 hours of that kind of clearing work, preparing for the end of life. And then I had them write a letter to their loved ones as if they were dying that night. So they had to sum up their hearts and really open and just pour out what they thought was important for them to say to their loved ones. And we all went into the morgue where there were caskets laid out in a beautiful circle with an altar in the middle. And we had each person read their letter out loud and then place it on the altar. We had each person lie down in a casket and, cross their hands across their chest and get ready to die. And we did a little bit of breath work, because the last breath we take in our dying is an exhale. It's like, whew, you just let go. So we did some breath work, and we had them take their last breath and exhale, and then we closed the lids on the caskets. And we left them in the caskets for about 12 minutes. Let them kind of viscerally experience being in a casket and being dead, as if. And then we brought them out, did some breath work to rebirth, and a little guided meditation. So what would happen if this was a fresh start for you? And you could live your life starting from today differently based on those regrets that you shared earlier in the evening. And I didn't have them talk, I just listened as we guided them through this meditation. We took them out of the morgue back into the gathering room. And I had them sit with each other and make a list of what are some things you could do today that would have you not on your real deathbed with the regrets you were carrying in your body earlier this evening. And they started to go through all the stuff they could do. And so I said to everybody, pick one. Pick one thing you can do right now that will embody for you your fresh and newness. And they'd say something, so I'd have them stand up and do it. Like actually do it in this room right here, right now. And they did, God bless them. They all did it. One young woman, oh, she was so sweet. She recognized that when she hugs her family members or loved ones, there's her family member, and then there's a piece of Teflon in between that's protecting her heart. And so she came, I said, okay, good, get up here. Hug me with no Teflon. And we hugged, and there was Teflon. And so I said in her ear, honey, you got to drop it. And she went, okay. Foom. And she dropped the Teflon by her choice. And the hug was just her hugging me with nothing in between. And she let go of the hug, and there were tears pouring down her face. The whole room was like, holy smokes, what's just happened? She let go of her protection. She let go of her ego. She let go of her personality. She let go and just hugged me. And so that's the kind of thing we did was, okay, good. So I met with her yesterday, about 10 days after, and she's still fresh and new because she's practicing hugging people with no shield. Mm-hmm. And that's her daily practice. So I said, you get 26 more years of hugging. Good for you. Go for it.
That's fabulous. I love that.
Yeah. So that's what we do.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's called Dying to Live. And we're going to do another one in Vancouver in June. And we're going to do one around Alberta. And we're going to do some around town. Just see what happens. Because it worked. We had 68-year-olds facing their life with way more reality than a 28-year-old. But still, they all did the work. And they all left with a sense of something dropping and a sense of freshness that they could begin again. And that brings me right to the regular rituals. Do we kill ourselves off every day? and allow ourselves to be born fresh new the next morning? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Have we still got our feet stuck in our history? And if we do, how dare we? If you ever hear yourself say, and I have a wife, and sometimes I say, oh, here we go again. You know, like, what's that? Well, what that is me using my history to keep my wife in jail in a cell with a number on it that I know and recognize, and I can deal with that cell number. And I can deal with it that way. If I don't kill her off every night energetically and kill the history, she's fresh and new. What do I do with that? I have no idea what's going to happen because I don't know who she is because she's new today. So how do we adopt that sort of practice in life with reality? So when we do wake up and it is fresh and new, it's like, wow, okay, I got no idea where I'm living, who I'm living with. It's a me here. And it's like a kid in a candy shop. I'm going to run downstairs and see who's there.
I love that. I love that you're saying that.
You know?
Yeah, that keeps it fresh. We have to pay attention that way.
Yes. As opposed to letting our history dictate who they are today.
And letting us fall asleep at the wheel because we can then be watching television in our life, you know, and having our beer and our alcohol, which is what half the country is doing.
Yep.
Yes.
So those sorts of little rituals, you know, that's one reason why I like my head shaved in the morning, fresh and new, fresh and new, fresh and new, fresh and new. It's a reminder that I'm fresh and new today because I'm a slow learner. I have to remind myself regularly with some practices or some mantra or something like a ritual. And this is why this is the way it is. I got lots of hair. It's just really short. And so how can your listeners adopt a ritual that lets them allow their history to die and lets them open to the beautiful now moment that we really are? How can we do that? And it's pretty simple. If we can only get our ego out of the way. The reason I like to keep my wife in jail or my mother-in-law in jail or my father-in-law in jail is so I feel safe.
Yes. But, you know, that's an illusion, you know.
Totally.
It's an illusion because we don't have any control over the outcome, number one. And number two, we're always safe.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
That's the biggest piece of it that we forget when we come into the body.
Yep. We're always safe.
There's no not safe. It just doesn't exist.
The only certainty is I'm a me. Everything else is uncertain.
Yeah.
I'm certainly me, the one I am. That's certain. Nothing else is.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that, you know?
Oh.
This is why death is such a brilliant teacher. It's springtime, right? So it's birth time. So the death of the summer, the incubation period of the fall and the winter is now allowing birth of the flowers again. It's like we're showing every day and every season the same solutions. And yet the ego is like, oh, no, I know more than Mother Nature does.
Right.
No, you know,
the trees let go of their leaves and they survive. They grow new ones. And
totally.
We're sitting here questioning it. It's like, okay.
Yep. So
I love that. Well, so, you know, tell the listeners, the watchers, anything else, you know, that you want to share. And I don't know if you have any special offer today or any thing that you want to mention to our listeners. And
yeah, I'm really setting out to change the way we do death and dying. I'm just doing it. And I'll do it all alone till I die. I don't care. I'm just doing it. And what I'm recognizing is the more I embrace my death, the more rich my life gets. Interesting. The more I embrace my death, the more rich and full my life gets. So I tried being a life coach for a while, and everybody kind of jumps on, okay, and they work with you until it gets tough, and then they quit. So I thought, well, that's not working. Okay, so, I'll be a death coach. Everybody's going to die. So they can't quit. They're going to die, right? So I'm using a backdoor to help people live more inspired lives. It's an indirect way, but it's quite effective. Because if I can help people embrace their death, I'm helping them really embrace their life. I'm helping them go all in. Because when they sit down with me and they have to get their will done, or they've got to get their advanced care directives done, or their end of life requests, or their celebration of life, then they are embracing their death. Mm-hmm. What they realize once they've done that is, whew, wow, I may not have it tomorrow. I better live my ass off today. So, you know, the viewers and listeners can head to aliveanddeath.com and they can look at the training I've put up there. And it's all about how do we deal with death in a more elegant way, in a more graceful way. And it's a trick, because if we learn how to deal with death in an elegant way, we're learning how to deal with life in an elegant way, because it's the same coin. It's not different. So it's a bit of a shamanic trick I'm trying out. And number two, even if it is a shamanic trick and it does work, it's still important as human beings to recognize this life too will end. And when I die, I may leave a mess behind for my loved ones and my survivors. I best get my end of life in order. That would be the responsible thing and the generous, loving thing for a parent to do for their children and for their husband or for their wife. So that's what I'm all about. And, you know, the training's real cheap. They can pick a donation amount, $75 or $175 or $275. I just want to give it away, because it's not about making money. It's about making change. And, you know, for any listener out there who really wants to turn their life volume up, face your death. Pick up the phone, call me, send me an email, and face your death. It's like it's a supercharger. It's like it just ignites your life, and it's like, whew, because I really don't know, Carrie. I really don't know whether I'll ever speak with you again. Have I given you my very best shot today? I bloody well have. So if I died after this conversation, I would die with a grin on my face. The last thing I did was I had this great interview with Carrie. Awesome. Kunk. So to really take it seriously and to go so all in your life that you're willing to face your death. And
I love that. Wow, yeah. Stephen, what a powerful interview. And you and I are going to talk again, because I'm going to make sure we do.
I look forward to it.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for giving us your wisdom today and sharing this really powerful message that I personally found transformative. And I'm already, like, my brain is already spinning. You know, a lot of people can see it when I'm calculating things. You know, yeah. You've seen that in my eyes since I've been here. I've been like, oh, I need to do a ritual. I need to release that old career. I need to, like, let it go and fully embrace and all in. And I need to, like, make that commitment so strong within myself that there's no going back.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
I would like you, please, to write me a little article on that ritual that you're going to create.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me when you're going to get it done by.
I will.
When are you going to get it done by? Give me a date.
When am I going to do it by?
Yep.
Well, I'm so tempted to do it right now, but let's say in a week.
Okay, so by the 24th of March.
Yes.
I can look in my inbox and I'll see a letter from you that describes the beautiful ritual you created to let go of your past life.
Absolutely. And what the other promise I'm making is, because this is going to air after.
Yep.
This is going to air probably the end of April.
Yep.
And so I'm committing that I'm going to share that ritual with you guys that I did to let go of my former career, and you guys can all witness it.
Beautiful.
How's that?
Thanks. That's amazing. Are you all in?
I'm all in.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. And I like to end every call with kisses.
Yep.
So let's give kisses to the audience. Ready? Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar.
Thank you.